Mr. Label, how are you?
Good. Ready to go. Keep going.
Just handle introductions. Where did they go? Just handle introductions.
Prior to that,
Ask the baby.
I'm not happy again today. I'm just happy to be part of it.
Yeah, we get minutes. Whoever can the baby to sleep. I'll buy you coffee. Sorry.
Good question. Where's this? Any questions for
YouTube, currently live on YouTube.
Okay.
On the district side.
It's 11 o'clock. Thank you all for being here, and I want to apologize for, we had already advertised this location several times out in the public. And I know there are a few people, but I think we're gonna be able to make it work today. The next two forums will be one in the Bakken Auditorium and one in the Williston High School Auditorium. So in the event that the word spreads and more people want to attend the next two, we'll have plenty, I hope, plenty of space for that to occur. So I'm Dr. Richard Fadley. I'm the superintendent. It's been since July 1st of 2022. And with me today is, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name's Nick Riesgraff. I'm currently the assistant principal at Williston Middle School, and I've been part of a team to basically put together a central campus for the middle level 5-8. I'll let Dr. Fadley kind of talk more about what mission he gave us and then share with you what we're working with.
Okay, so I'll set the stage for how do we get here? So during the 21-22 school year, the community, this is prior to my arrival, they spent an entire year inviting all different stakeholders to come together, and they put together a strategic plan and a long-range facilities plan. During that time, they identified goals throughout the document that the district would be held accountable for. So I arrived in May and officially started in July. So in August, those plans, the strategic plan and the long-range facilities plan, were approved unanimously by the board. Within that plan, there was a direction and goals to move to a new structure within our school district. And that structure would be eventually K-5, 6-8, and 9-12. So in August, I want to set the stage for the challenges so it will help maybe understand how we got to the plan we have today. In August, we became very aware that our elementary classrooms were much larger than they should be. specifically at the kindergarten and first grade level. Our classes were approaching 31 students. So I asked the staff to identify where we could add additional members. We added 3 kindergarten teachers to try to alleviate some of the overcrowding at that grade level. Looked at the enrollment data that we got back after we added those classrooms, and we're still in an environment where we have 28, 29, and 30 students in our K-1 classrooms. That's not appropriate for early learning. So I asked the team to come back together, and we tried to figure out how to add additional teachers. So the problem became there weren't any classrooms at the K4 level to add additional staff. So we did the best we could for the fall, adding staff and resources. Going back to the strategic plan, and I'm not going to talk the whole time. I'm going to just kind of set the stage. You're going to hear a short presentation from Nick about where we are right now. And then the purpose of these meetings is to listen to solutions to the issues that we face. So looking at the strategic plan and the structure and the organization of the district moving forward, we met with the board and we had a retreat. And the idea that we brought forward there was a bridge plan to transition to K4 short term until we could bond and build elementary schools to address the capacity issues that we were facing. We understand that that is a process that involves the community, it involves the voters, and it involves lots of conversations about where to place students. Additionally, in the strategic plan, and this is a key piece, that the expectation is that we establish attendance areas and boundaries so that we can balance out our schools in an equitable way so that people will know where their children are going to school. So that kind of sets the stage from an elementary perspective. So the reality is that the demographics show that we are going to have 517 kindergartners. And those are demographic studies performed by RSP and one that was performed by a company called Decision Insight. And it shows those demographic studies, which are based on live births, show that our cohorts at the younger ages are going to continue to grow over time. So 517 kindergartners coming in, 260 graduates leaving. And as that cohort moves through the system and they keep growing behind them, space becomes a real challenge on where to put students. Unless there is agreement that we want to have 35 and 40 students in a classroom, and I tell you, I won't do that. So we have to figure out solutions to the challenges that we're facing. So going on that, we started to take a look at our 5th grade population, our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade population, and the available space that we have at the Bakken, the middle school, and ASB. Trying to look at ways that we could short-term move kids around, because we do have lots of space at that central middle school environment. There are capacities which we are far from reaching right now. Now, we will in the future if we do nothing. Those environments will fill up as well. But that was the only space we had available to look at. So we started talking about how to, within the strategic plan, which also focuses, one of the goals is innovation. How can we take the concepts that have been established at ASB. And with the direction of the strategic plan, build and expand the knowledge and the mindset of innovation. Now, I know because I've been out in the schools, innovation is happening in our other buildings, but we haven't really focused outside of the walls of ASB on professional development surrounding the innovation model. So up to this point in time, there's been a team working on a plan to try to address some of the challenges I just shared with you. So I don't want to move on until I talk about this final piece. So we've talked about the strategic plan and what the expectations are moving forward. So that's kind of my, as superintendent, board, and community, because the community helped develop it. That's kind of the roadmap for the future. Now, if we do nothing and we go into next fall, there will be 35 kindergartners in classrooms across the district. And that's not a good way to start your education in public school. Those are facts. Those aren't, those are real challenges that we have. So we're trying to do the best we can in balancing the student population. So the last thing that I'll talk about, we've talked about the strategic plan, the long-range facilities plan. We've talked about the demographic studies, and we've talked about our challenges with space. So the final challenge are the conditions of our buildings. Now, during that long-range facilities plan, there were millions, I can't even tell you how many hundreds of millions of dollars worth of, or maybe not hundreds of millions. There was a lot of millions of dollars worth of need to update our schools. Our schools have been in a state of disrepair. The portable classrooms that have been placed across this district are at the end of their life. And part of that strategic plan is to remove the portable environments and replace them with brick and mortar buildings. Now, all of this can't happen all at once, but we have to start figuring out how we're going to fix our schools. And I'll give you 2 examples, and they're all across the district. We have challenges. I'll focus on Lewis and Clark first, built in, I believe, the early 1950s. There are significant needs with electrical. There are significant needs with mechanicals, air quality, heating, safety, and fire safety, and all of those types of things. All of those challenges exist in all of our buildings, with the exception of the high school and Missouri Ridge. And the middle school still has some challenges, but not as significant as some of our other buildings. And we're talking millions of dollars that do not exist currently, that things need to be fixed. So part of what I put together is the start of a capital projects deferred maintenance plan that we've presented one time to the Buildings and Grounds Committee to try to get our buildings in a condition where the climate is appropriate and we don't go into a school year and have a heating system fail because it hasn't been replaced when it should have been replaced 10 or 15 years ago. So those are real challenges. So I've been talking a lot about how this is one of those puzzles. It's not like the puzzles that I'm good at, like 25 to 50 pieces on the table. This is a 10,000 piece puzzle that we're trying to work together to get us to the point where we have environments in schools that our kids deserve and our community deserves. So I know there's a lot of emotion out there about proposed change, but I will tell you, this community is going to have to change if we want to serve all of our kids the way they deserve to be served. innovation and that mindset is being expanded. Now, currently, it changes location, and that's part of some of the concern I understand, and that's why we're here to listen to solutions. But before we go to that, I want you to hear what the plan is so you can get in your mind what we could perhaps do. And if there's a better plan, we want to hear it because we really, I know the team has worked hard to try to come up with a better plan that meets the needs, and again, of all children and provides that environment that is equitable. So, Mr. Riesgraft, would you like to start your presentation? And then when we're done, then it will be time to listen to solutions. And if I know students are here, I want to hear you as well. And you may not have a solution, but you may have something you would like to say, and I want that to be captured for the community as well. Because that's why we're here. We're here for the students, so.
And I'll start, I'll address the students. Thank you for being here. What you're experiencing, I see your ASB Innovation Academy shirts, and you're here and you're ready to ask hard questions and have a difficult conversation. Our goal in the direction we were given was to provide the opportunity that you have had at the Innovation Academy for all students. And we're even thinking of ways that we can take what's going on in that Innovation Academy, not only have them spread 5-8, but when a bond passes and there's new elementary schools, that 5th grade going to be part of those elementary schools, that what you're experiencing is going that way as well. So that is what we're looking at. That is the challenge that's been put in front of the team that I've been part of. And we've had lots of hard discussions. We have a couple of different plans. A different plan than what's on the screen right now was presented to teachers in the beginning of December. And the differences between the two plans are some changes in the timeline on when we want to try to do things. And so what I can describe and kind of compare it to is if you watch shows where people are trying to move into a new house and they show them 3 options and, hey, well, we can go to this one. It's closer to the work, but we don't have the garage space we need. And it's over our budget because it's closer to work. Well, we can go out and it's less expensive, but now it's further from work and we have the garage space. So the space and stuff we're looking at, it's not perfect. There isn't the perfect solution. So it's the trade-off. It's the compromise we have to make to figure out what's best for all our students is what we're looking at in this plan. So I can, as I go through in the timeline, I can describe the differences between the two timelines and what those trade-offs are. And then absolutely more minds on it and solutions. Please, we consider all solutions. So as we got started with this team, with this challenge that was presented, one of the first things we talked about is the good things and what our vision could be for making these changes. And we brought that back to each of our individual buildings, 5-8, and we came up with 4 different driving vision statements that all seem pretty similar to each other. So what you see there is a combination, a collaboration of the staff at all 4 of our buildings that are 5-8 at this point. So the vision of our new middle school campus is to prepare students for their future through innovative engagement, utilizing real-world applications and 21st century skills to make learning relevant, engaging, and timely. So again, I look at the students here. What could be more relevant than learning how to come to a forum like this, ask questions, and engage in this process? What could be more relevant than that in your community? So again, thank you for being here. Again, I want to be able to prepare all our students to be able to take part in that. So what you're learning at your school, the idea is to make that bigger, expand that out. So again, thank you for being here. So with that idea, the ideas and the good intents for changes, you'll see the 4 different categories there. I'm gonna focus on, because it's between the 2 different timelines, it's kind of the part of the bigger deal is numbers 3 and 4, with the other 2 as well. But you see, number 3 is increasing the innovation for staff and students, and 4 is equitable opportunities. So a big part of that equitable opportunity is all students having that chance to benefit from the innovative practices that are going on at ASB and then in pockets in classrooms throughout our other buildings. And one of the ways and the visions that I see that going and our team sees that continuing to spread is also a strategic priority in our strategic plan. I can't remember what number it is, but that'd be a professional learning community. So as part of a professional learning community, teachers collaborate together to basically focus on what do we want our students to learn and know how to do? How are we gonna know when they've learned it? And then what are we gonna do if they don't? And then what do we do when they do? And how do we extend that learning? So when teachers come together and work with that, it is shown that has the highest impact on student achievement over anything else. Your teachers working together, collaborating in this way. So as we look at the new campus, spreading innovation, these teachers coming together and figuring out, hey, did our students learn this? If they didn't, why not? And then, why did your students learn it more than mine? Is going to be a really big deal, because the innovative practices that we have going on are going to rise to the top, and the learning community aspect of it is teachers will share those practices with each other. So as we look at the timeline, when we're moving different grade configurations around, the intent is to facilitate that as best as we can. So these people that are at the same grade level, teaching the same content, are close to each other, and those meetings can happen during the day, during a planned time, and they can happen often and not have to find each other across the whole town at this point with Missouri Ridge out there, but within the same grade configured house, if you will. So that is a huge driver of how we can increase students' access to those innovative practices within the campus, is our professional learning community structure. So with that, I'll take you to the timeline. And so some of the things on the timeline, these were presented to staff in December in slightly different order. In December, we talked about leaving as much as we could the same next year. Some of the trade-offs we experience in that is, well, we have the structural struggle for that professional learning community. We have grades 6, 7, and 8 across the street at the Innovation Academy. We have grades 6, 7, and 8 at the Bakken Center and the Coyote Center, and they're not in proximity to each other to facilitate this collaboration in the best way. Okay. So teachers transitioning to that meeting and working together and being able to see what each other do is not there. So if we leave it the same, we were talked about another way we could spread this innovation is taking our teachers and putting teachers together strategically in their teams. So we'd have at least teachers on a team that have the experience from the Innovation Academy and some that don't, and they would be working together. And then the following year, going to that grade level structure within the building the best way that we could. So the plan in December that we presented to staff, we are still looking for those grade level centers. It's just we were trying to do that more slowly. So this plan is a little bit more aggressive to try to do that next year. Again, to facilitate that collaboration with teachers. Okay, so presenting the plan to all of you has been part of our plan the whole time. are getting on the same schedule as everyone. Again, establishes a time for teachers to meet during the day. Okay, so that's two of the big structural barriers to our collaboration as a professional learning community is the time to meet and then the physical space we're at to make those meetings happen as much as we can. So that's the master schedule that we need to try to put together. Generate our MTSS pathways. So this is our system of supports. So the biggest part of that is they go in different tiers. So as you go up these tiers in supports in a school, we have tier 1 supports, which are for everyone. Every kid that goes to the school gets these. These are things like common expectations, ways that teachers communicate those expectations and teach and reteach those, the way they positively reward when kids do meet those expectations. All those things we're looking to as teachers and staff to be on the same page. So your experience as a student 5 through 8 is as cohesive as it can be. So that when you're a 5th grader, okay, now I'm transitioning to this area of the building as a 6th grader. Well, all my teachers are still talking about these set of expectations in the very same way, and so it's not so different. So having that for 4 years in the 5-8 and then eventually 3 years in the 6-8 is a big deal. It's lessens that idea of transitioning from a grade to grade. It's not a different school. We're still on the same campus. We're still hearing the same things that we're expected to do with the routines, the procedures. And so, okay, I'm comfortable here and I can get into my learning more. That's the work that us as a staff have to do to provide that level of comfort for all our students. So the next one, teacher placement to support collaboration. So in this timeline, we are aggressively doing that into grade level houses. In a previous plan, we were talking about, again, splitting up teams strategically to spread that innovation. So in the previous plan, what that would mean is we would have teachers moving their classrooms next year. And then again, when we're going to the grade level configurations, so that's 2 moves for teachers instead of what would be 3 in the previous plan, because you'd move teachers to be with each other for their teams. Then again, for the grade level configurations, and then permitting bond passing, again, 5th grade would go back, and then reutilizing that space, we're moving a 3rd time to teachers. So in this plan, that would cut that to 2 instead of 3. So the other things are, and we have a team meeting next week, a subcommittee for team building among the staff, led by Mr. Higlich, trying to get us again on the same page so we can do all those things that I described before. So we're part of the same team, we trust each other, and we're moving forward for our students. And then the last thing on the timeline here for next year is ASB students here will tell you they are graded a certain way. That's called a hybrid grade. You have a behavior grade and then a standards-based grade. Am I using the vocabulary right? I'm at a school that does not have hybrid grading. So that's going to be another change for myself and the teachers I work with that are in here would tell you, yep, that's a big change. We need to learn how to do that. So we're all grading the same way throughout our campus. So the next slide again is the grade configuration again. We had a plan where this didn't happen next year, and we were putting it off for a year. Again, that's this way it's decreasing the amount of movement that teachers have to do year to year. We also had different areas of the building where we were working with 5th grade. The 3rd floor of the Bakken has been discussed. So there's, again, when you're talking about different areas of building, it's those trade-offs, just like you're moving into a house. Different things. I mean, the 3rd floor of the Bakken has really high school size science labs. So in this plan, we're trying to look, our bigger kids are in those high school size science labs and being able to utilize them on the Bakken Ridge side. If we were to put self-contained fifth grade up there, that could involve some remodeling. I know I've talked with Mr. Clausen and Nick Lippert this past week about possibility of that. So again, it's remodeling. We have some different options as well. It's just a matter of where we want to put taxpayer money to remodel, knowing that our plan is fifth grade is going to be part of elementary school in the future. And at the same time, we have fifth grade for 2-3 years, and we need to do the best we can with those kids at the same time. So that's the challenge we have, is that those fifth graders are going to be at that transition piece. We need to embrace them as long as we have them, because they become sixth graders, they become seventh graders, they become the adults in the town. So those are the configuration that's been proposed, was proposed on Monday to teachers. Again, with the intent of facilitating that collaboration, to spread that innovation that's happening at ASB, and to limit the amount of time the teachers have to move after a school year. And so that leads us into things we will work on next year with school in session with our staff of teachers. With the time that we have, the schedule we're going to get on, we're going to prioritize that facilitating the professional learning communities. ASB students, you have a win period, an intervention period. Williston Middle School has started that this year as well for the first year. So we're excited in collaborating with your teachers and your staff on how to improve that as a whole campus. So that's been inspiring and a work in progress at Williston Middle School as well. So that intervention period and time for collaboration for teachers is very important to us in developing a master schedule next year. But then throughout the year next year, how can we fit more things into a schedule and do the more things we want to do? We really want to take a year with staff, students, to research and develop a schedule that's going to allow us to do more things in that even. And the next one, again, ties into our strategic plan, developing a career pathway to align with the high school. Is a meeting in January. We had Leslie Allen, and then the high school principals showed us how they are working on their career pathways with a website that you can put in basically as a student or a parent what your kid is interested in, and it generates a pathway through high school with all the classes that you can take. And so aligning with that at the middle level, again, building that relevancy into what you're learning in school is something that is really, really exciting to work with the high school on that and to bring that through 5-8 as well. So we'll have our hybrid grading as we talked about. Our teams and classrooms in place in this timeline will be in place. And then again, taking that time to create and adopt what our innovation framework is 5-8. One of the things that after this got brought up that we talked about it with fifth grade potentially being able to be inside the Innovation Academy is that model with those fifth grade teachers being able to experience what they can do in that building with innovation when they become fifth grade in a elementary school, being able to bring that experience again to the rest of the K4. And we have a group trained with experience going into each of those elementary buildings, which is could be really exciting to spread it out down. So that's where we're at. Our next steps are, we have some subcommittees that are meeting. I met with special education group, I believe on Thursday, to look at the spaces and how they can be utilized for special education students and what their needs are. There are going to be some high needs coming into fifth grade. Mrs. Teskey, coordinator at Wilmac, shared with us that there are 70 students out of the 410 that'll be in fifth grade that will be on an IEP next year. That's about 18%. State average is 13 to 14%. So we have a group coming in that have some extra needs that we need to meet as well. So with that, I'll turn it over back to Dr. Fadley and all of you.
So I think now that you have the background and the framework of where we are, at least at this point in time, I think that I'd like to transition to, now that you've heard a little bit of what we're proposing, if you have solutions or ideas that maybe we haven't considered as a group, we would like to hear those. So I think the best way to do that, instead of doing hand raising, is just to maybe start in the front. And I know we have this microphone here, so we can pass the microphone back. Is that what you need us to do?
Can I just say, for those in the back, just make sure you speak up, not only just for me to make sure I can hear you and you don't sound like crap on TV, but also for the people listening, because there's probably a lot of people that might not be able to hear you if you don't speak.
Do you know there is an overflow room also where a lot of people are in and they may have questions, and how are we gonna be able to address their questions?
I would say if somebody could assist me and making sure, I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's again, in the future, we will have an auditorium environment. I just didn't want to confuse everybody at the last minute because this was scheduled way back when. So I think we'll start in the front row, and I don't care which side we start on. Maybe we can start, no, not with you. Okay, maybe we can start on this side of the table. And if you have some ideas, some solutions, please share those. If you don't want to talk, that you don't have to. I just want to try to have some sort of organized approach so we're not bouncing. And maybe somebody in the back that can help me facilitate. If people really want to come in, we can have them come in and speak as well. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to capture the essence of what you say in your solutions so that we can take them back to the larger team, because we're not all here today. It's just Mr. Riesgraf and myself today, but we want to be able to share these statements or ideas with everyone. So,
Dr. Bailey?
yes.
If I may, for those that do want to speak too, can you please state your name and spell it if it's a hard spelling, just for the record?
Pressure. All right, let's start over here. Start over here. Okay.
All right, well, I just have one question. I'm Matt Liebel, by the way, if you know my name, Mike. As we start to plan and do all this, I think it's important to, and you didn't really touch much about it. Missouri Ridge next year will be a K-4.
That is correct.
How many students, how many sections do you guys plan for K-4 next year at Missouri Ridge? So we can I'm trying to piece it all together. I got paper scattered all over at my house. Right
Okay,
now.
so maybe I'll spend just 2 minutes addressing the question about the elementary structure. So at the K-4 level, all buildings across the district will become K-4. And we're working right now, and we're not quite there yet with the geo mapping structure with pin drops of every student in the district to try to draw boundaries. So Missouri Ridge will currently hold comfortably 450 students. So in a K-4 environment, they can hold 450, which could be up to 4 sections. So we're still trying to figure out 3 sections at each grade or 4 sections at each grade, depending on how we draw the boundary lines. Now we've also, and I will tell you we've also looked at Missouri Ridge being K-5 because ultimately that's the end goal, right? So if we were to draw the boundaries right now, doing some of the hypothetical line shifts in the program, we can get Missouri Ridge to 430 at a K-5 level. So still a lot of work to be done, but right now, the plan is 3 sections of each grade at Missouri Ridge.
On the long-range facilities plan, it lists the capacity of those buildings. Do you think those are all accurate?
Yes. Our technology department has taken every one of our schools and drawn down a floor plan. So we've actually counted the classrooms and looked at special classrooms and offices and all of those types of things. So, yes. So all elementary schools for next year, including Garden Valley, will be K-4. Now, we are going to move the Round Prairie students in for efficiency, and the conversation and the plan right now is to develop what other Class A school districts have in an English language learner immersion newcomer center, where we will serve approximately 70 of our most intensive EL language learners there for a 2.5 hour intensive program. And I'm not an EL expert, but they do this in Grand Forks, Fargo, and Bismarck. And it really helps assimilate kids back into the school environment when they go back in and have this approach. It helps them be more successful academically. So that plan is to use that building, and I know it's out there, but that space we do have that we want to use. If we have space in town, we would use space in town, but we don't. So it's the best we can do right now. So we're going to go to you next. Can you say your name and then if you have comments, I will.
So I am Alex Ostrom. I'm a 7th grade student at ASB Innovation Academy. And I can't speak for all of us, but I know some of our concerns are our teachers had a lot of training to be able to teach the way we're learning at ASB. And I want to know for sure that all my teachers will know that, because I don't want to change after 3 or so years of learning like that. And I know we're all comfortable in our building because most of us have been there for 3 years. And I just don't want to change, and it'll be hard because new school, new faces, new teachers. And I just want to make sure that everyone will be comfortable.
So the plan as Mr. Riesgraf has said is to use the expertise of the teachers in the ASB Center to help build that model out. So I want to be upfront. That's going to take some time. So professional learning doesn't happen overnight, and that will be a embedded process. So one of the things that we've done to address that particular issue is to look at the experts we have. And one of the experts we have who's been an integral part of that is Mrs. Zimmerman. Mrs. Zimmerman's title and role next year will be Principal of Innovative Instructional Practices 5-8, and she will be helping to assemble and develop that innovation plan under Mr. Riesgraf's Central Campus and work with teachers. That will be her sole focus, is working with staff. She will not be doing discipline or any of that types. So she'll be in classrooms working with teachers. So it's not perfect, but it does address a little bit of your concern. But all the teachers won't be like Mr. Liebel on day one, because he's been there a while. He's learned over time, but we do have a plan to train. Forget your name.
Good morning. My name is Sasha Holzer. Sasha. I'm an ASB Innovation Academy Student Council Representative and National Junior Honor Society Character Chair. You may know me as a student, and more specifically, a 7th grader from the ASB Innovation Academy. I've been a part of ASB since late 2020 when COVID hit Wilson hard. I've grown attached to ASB because of the challenges and struggles we've gone through.
That is an example of one of many reasons why you shouldn't evict ASB Innovation Academy students from their home. You stated that in strategic priority number 9 that students have the most significant stake in their education when involved in their school. Students can accelerate their learning and better prepare themselves for the world, where taking the initiative and learning new skills are increasingly paramount to success. This new strategy could do both deflect on your claim and add to your claim. Students would have an opportunity to speak out on how they would like to learn and where they want to learn. It also states that students will have a voice and choice in their learning and school activities. Evicting students from their school without consent could project a poor appearance on yourself and the rest of the school board. Nearly every student from the ASB Innovation Academy wants to stay with their school, from what I heard. They've been through at most 3 years in the school, and all 3 of them have had a variety of challenges and hurdles that we had to face. We understand that you'd like to spread the innovation teaching strategy through all the schools in our district by changing the way schools are organized and also for capacity levels. Although we believe this is the exact solution. Instead of changing our schools around, why not spread the innovation throughout the teachers and how they teach? For example, providing more projects, field trips, and different seating arrangements in all classrooms. Students should have a choice and a voice on whether they transfer schools or stay where they are. Instead of conjoining the schools, you could try strategies for intertwining students from various schools. For example, doing group activities with kids from the middle school and the ASB, or doing field trips that include Missouri Ridge and the Bakken. This strategy would be a less expensive option and could help students reach out of their comfort zone without reaching too far. In conclusion, you should consider taking our viewpoint into mind. And one more time, we believe that you shouldn't spread the innovation teaching strategy by moving students, but by changing how students learn, or how each classroom learns. Have you considered any other easier and more affordable solutions, such as the options I just stated? Thank you.
Good to hear our students speak. I know our country's in good hands for the future. When I was your age, I wasn't able to do what you just did. I would have been bright red and had splotches all over my body. So thank you for that, and thank you for your ideas.
Hi, my name is Alexis Hansen. I am a 7th grader at ASB Innovation Academy, and I am here to say a few things on behalf of my friends, peers, and teachers at ASB. Right now, we are all here to discuss the news of the reconfiguration of the schools. I can't say I was particularly pleased when I heard the news. In fact, I was scared of what it would mean for my school. This decision will greatly impact our future, and I want to voice some concerns that people of ASB have been wondering and worried about. To start, there is a huge change in relationships. Relationships matter in a school. To change students and staff around is to change relationships with an entire school. People need to have a friendly face, or even just someone to trust, and that is what a relationship is. Another problem I have is that you had no consent or input from students, staff, parents, community members, and school donors. This new plan was a little out of the blue. I, for one, was shocked to find out that this plan was going to be set in motion. A plan like this should not take a few months. It should take a few years, and I do not understand the rush for all of this sudden change. Something else to consider is employment. It is known that we are in need of educators, and making a 280 student school a 410 student school just doesn't make sense. Where are we going to find the staff and educators? Also, what about the number of students we are moving around? Transforming a school only big enough for 280 students to a school for over 400 students is not logical. If you do plan to fit all of the students, where is the remodeling funding coming from? The people who donated their money donated to a new innovative school, not a self-contained 5th grade center. The topic of equity comes up frequently, and I want to be part of the solution, not the problem. I understand the reasoning behind making the opportunities we have at ASB district-wide, and I support that. I just don't understand why ASB has to change to do that. We need to bring innovation through teachers in their classrooms and schools. We can use the practices at ASB as examples to bring innovation to the district. Now you have heard our concerns with the new plan. All we ask is that you take our problems and concerns into consideration and find new solutions. We all need to work together and compromise to find a plan that works for everyone. Thank you.
Very well said. I did what I said before. We've got some very good speakers that are agents.
They are innovators.
Hello, my name is Sawyer Spencer, and I am a seventh grader in ASB Innovation Academy. I do not have a full speech, but I do have some questions and concerns about what we are deciding to do with our new school district. How do you feel that all the fifth graders are going to fit into a school that is meant for 280 kids?
How do I feel? Where we've been right now is we've worked with an architect to create a temporary solution to divide some of the larger spaces. Not perfect, but in those conversations with JLG architects, they believe that we can accommodate the student numbers that we are anticipating for the short term. Being a temporary solution where we would lease some of this material, it wouldn't reconfigure and change permanently the design of that building, so that when we're able to pass the bond and move our fifth graders out of that central campus environment back to the elementary schools, we can have that space again to redesign together whatever it is at that moment in time that we need, whether it's, enhancing the model we currently have or, changing that model based on the voice of the community to do something that might be needed at that time. So administrators like Mr. Rees-Graft and Mr. Kloss and myself, we've met with the architects, and if you're interested in that plan, that will be discussed at our next Buildings and Grounds Committee as an informational presentation. Okay?
I have one more question. Is this plan absolutely necessary that it has to be put into place next school year?
So absolutely necessary. Those are strong words, I would say. We have to make a decision as a community as what we want to do in terms of our student population. Do we want to start next fall and have even greater challenges with the incoming numbers that we know are going to be enrolling in our school district based on the studies? And do we want to have class sizes of 35 in kindergarten, in the mid-30s, and the same in first grade? Or do we want to look at ways that we can balance out those numbers across the district? Kindergarten classrooms should have, in my opinion, and I think it's backed by research, no more than 22, and that's what we're building for next year in our K-4 environments with some of these plans, so that we can educate them as they get to us at 5 and 6 years old and do a good job with the staff that we have. It's very challenging. If you know kindergarten teachers, it's extremely challenging in the current environment based on some of the mental health needs and behavior needs that we're seeing in our school system. So absolutely necessary are strong words, but I think we need to decide from a core value standpoint what we want to do in terms of that particular issue. Because to allow that to and ignore that is going to hurt children in our community, and that it's going to hurt the learning for our most neediest kids when they come to us from home. And I want them to have a good experience as well.
Thank you.
I also I also just have a few questions. So my name is Emma McCoy. I am a seventh grader at Innovation, and I do have a few questions. So how long do you realistically think it will take to pass the bond and improve the school district?
So in the event that the board decides to move forward with the bond, whether it's in the fall or whether it's early summer, from the time the bond is passed to the time that the schools would open would be approximately 24 months. So 2 years would be a good gauge on what it would take to actually have them in place.
That's it.
Thank you.
My name is Trayson Fiss, and I have one question. How does this affect the original donors of the building?
Well, obviously, it does affect the dollars that they donated for the purpose and the intent of that particular building. However, I think individuals who did donate may understand, based on some of the challenges we're facing, that there are no perfect solutions to meet those challenges. And you know, based on what we've communicated, we've tried to be focused on all of our students, our early learners, our middle learners. We haven't even talked about the high school. The high school is at capacity, over capacity. I had high school teachers telling me that. And we have some needs there as well, but we're trying to prioritize in order of what we can get done with the resources we have. If I could snap my fingers and have it done tomorrow where everybody got to be in the environments that they wanted to be in, and we were serving all kids the best way we could, I would do it in a heartbeat. But it does affect at least the structure of what was proposed several years ago with the construction of that building. But I would be willing to sit down and talk through, just like I am with you, the whys behind some of the things that we really don't want to do, but we have to make some decisions about where our priorities lie.
You can just look it on the table.
Hi, I'm Daphne Treadwell. I'm a 7th grader and I have maybe a couple questions. So one of them is that so you said earlier that if this plan doesn't go forward this year, you have something else that you might be able to try. So what is your alternate plan if this doesn't go through?
So let's say, are you saying if we don't reorganize or if we don't pass the bond?
I guess if you don't pass the bond.
Okay. If we don't pass the bond, the reality that we will be faced as a community is that we will have class sizes in the high 30s in all of our grades. We are growing, and part of that, when you look at the enrollment and the expected students that are coming in, one of the ways to look at that is if you put that group of 517 kindergartners and you move them each year into that cohort group, and what comes behind them from the years to come is also growing. When you're losing 260s from your senior class, it's going to be a much larger population. Our demographic studies that go out, the one that was done in 2022 from RSP shows us consistently growing every year for the foreseeable future in our student population. So what would Plan B be? I don't know at the present time. That would be another giant puzzle to try to put together, but it will include larger class sizes across the entire system. And as you start to increase class sizes, it will affect the opportunity for many of our children to learn what they need to learn. It's just a reality. So we're trying to keep the class sizes we're trying to focus on that as one of our core values moving forward.
Okay, and another question that I have is that at the Innovation Academy, we have lots of different activities going on, that would some of these things carry on to the next school year? Like, if we go put together if the innovation strategy is spreading, does that mean we will also have like more of the same like STEM-based activities or other things that the innovation has at present?
You want to take that one?
So yeah, absolutely. So on Thursday, I met with Mrs. Zimmerman and Mr. Rutlick, and we had a survey that we had sent out to all your teachers in October about what they teach and what they would like to teach. And so the purpose of that is we're going through and seeing who's coming back, what do they want to do, and what do we need. And it's part of that is we're trying to figure out, are there positions that we can request by our deadline of March 15th for STEM? So we're working on figuring that out. We sent out an updated teacher survey shortly after that on Thursday to gauge where we're at since October and what people and teachers feel comfortable teaching and what their passions are. And so we'll be comparing that to what our needs are and what's already offered in all the buildings, and be requesting the appropriate amount of teachers to carry a lot of that on.
So
I know you guys saw that too.
we will be making more buildings in the future, right? Like adding on to the high schools and the middle schools, because you're correct that our community is steadily growing. So we will additionally, with the new elementary school, we'll also have to have maybe another middle school or high school, or
Well, the way it works in North Dakota is, there are two ways to do it. One is to have a building fund be large enough over time and save to build the school and pay for it. At the current time, I believe we have $20 million in our building fund, somewhere close to that in our building fund. So what I would think the plan would be is the board would decide how much of that money they want to use to build these two new elementary schools. So in the state of North Dakota, it requires you to have a supermajority, 60%, I believe is the number, of the voters approve the bond to actually build new schools. So that would be, again, that would be a decision of when the board would want to ask the community for that, or ability to raise the levies to do that if that were the direction that we were going to go, and the community saying yes.
That's all I got for now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to row 2 and try to, if you don't have anything, just let me know. And
Dr. Fabian, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Tyler Hazer, I teach at the Willis Middle School. First of all, thank you for all of your students writing, because we all know as adults on social media, it's easy to write that down, and you're all very eloquent in your speaking, and thank you for that. But it's another thing to sit 4 feet from the person you're addressing and ask those hard questions. So again, thank you guys very much for being here. And, two questions that are coming up is we're talking about buildings a lot, but what about teachers? We're already 20 teachers short. Is there a plan in place to find out how to fill these other classrooms that we're going to create with teachers?
So I can tell you we're headed to numerous teacher fairs over the course of the next several weeks. I believe there are 4 or 5 that we're going to be targeting. We are looking at, we do have a process in place where we have a lot of H1 visa teacher applicants. We're looking at that as well. There are some really good teachers across the district from that process. As I build the budget for next year, recruitment and retention doesn't start at a teacher fair. It starts by going out with the administration and visiting education schools, getting on the list. It starts with building our own, had conversations with Dr. Herning at the college about how we can work together to grow our own and keep the education students here for 4 years so that they can come into our schools in their junior and senior years, and we can snatch them up and hire them, our own local kids when they're done. So those are some of the things on the horizon. I would tell you, this is just not just a Williston problem. This is a problem all over the United States. So we're going to have to also work with our state legislators and our federal folks as well to try to work together to create the environment that we used to have, where teaching was one of the professions we used to have an abundance of people going into that. So it is really disheartening that, when I was looking at the data from my previous state before I came here, I was talking with the state department officials, and the teaching colleges there have decreased the number of education students by almost 65%, and that's a huge issue. So if that's one state, you just take it transfers to all the others. We have a national problem. It's not just a state and local problem. So some of those creative ways of trying to capture people, how you present it, how you present your district, and then what do the facilities look like in your district to attract people to come here? If you're sitting in a classroom and it's readily known that it's either super cold or super hot because we have systems that are so old that should have been replaced, is that really going to attract people to come? So I can tell you that when I arrived, met with Sean Wanko and the mayor. Sean Wanko back then was the economic development person, and we had conversations about the master plan for building the city. I want to be a part of that, have a seat at the table to talk about the schools being a part of that master plan, because there are a couple of things, and I think the local government officials would agree with this, that you want to have quality medical care accessible in your own community, so that you don't have to drive to Bismarck or Minot or Sydney or some of the other places that people have to go to get their medical coverage. You have to have amenities within your community that people want, like Walmarts and those types of things. And I've heard Taco Bell and other things as well. I don't know if we need that, the Taco Bell, but we do need places for people to shop and buy their stuff. And then the third leg of that is you need good quality schools where people want to send their kids moving forward. And I'm not talking about not having quality staff. We have quality staff. I'm talking about having facilities that meet the needs of our 21st century students.
One other quick question, follow up to Mr. Liebel's question. Having been a former District 8 teacher, Round Prairie, it lists on the strategic or long-term plan that 350 students could be housed out there. In trying to come up with all the opportunity or all the options for what we can do, can we look at that again? Because the kitchen at Round Prairie will not support 350 students. Maybe the rooms will, but the kitchen would not.
Yeah, so yes, it would require a huge investment of money to make Round Prairie functional for that number of students.
So my question was, is there other buildings in the district that maybe the numbers didn't look at all those types of things?
Yeah, we have gone through each one of the buildings. I haven't spent a lot of time doing that same approach with Round Prairie because I know it can hold 70 kids. We've been focusing on the other elementary schools at this time, but yeah, we will double check all of that. Thank you.
My name is Greg Savell. I teach at the middle school, and I've looked at the old high school. Previous to the Bakken, roughly, in my personalness, you have personal knowledge, I've got personal knowledge of that building. There were roughly 1,000 kids, 9 through 12 in there. Now your geo mapping that you're taking care of, how many classrooms are there available for the seventh graders? And how many seventh graders can you fit in there comfortably? And then also the retrofitting, the remodeling. For instance, from the main entryway of the old high school, if you go to the main office, that whole area down there, were it to be gutted and take all the offices out and put classrooms, I would guess you could get 3 of them right there. So it's a 2-part question. How many seventh and eighth graders can you put in there right now comfortably? And how many more can you get in there if you do some major remodeling? Because the last part of that, you talk about buildings, I'm kind of a nostalgic guy and I love walking into that lobby. You know, there's an old phone booth there. You know, the phone booth, there's the ticket gate. I mean, that's coyote history. That stuff should absolutely be kept in place. So these people know, these young people here know what grandma and grandpa, where they came from. So I would love to see that building renovated back up to where it's supposed to be, like the Innovation Academy. And that's where I would like to see it go.
So first question on the numbers. I don't have that on the top of my head. Do you know how many?
I don't have that on the top of my head.
Stumped you.
I believe. So it's the number of students is the question?
Seventh grade students?
How many classrooms and comfortably, how many students can you use the number 22? Okay, so you can put 22, because I know those are huge
The
classrooms.
number I have on the top of my head is like the 3rd floor, because that is another of the options that we've considered for where 5th grade could be. And there's about 16, I would say, full-size rooms on the 3rd floor, where that 410 5th graders could fit comfortably. I'd have to see it.
Yeah.
I'd have to see it a little bit more.
So the second part of your question, have we looked at what turning some of those spaces that you discussed into classrooms? Yes, we've looked at that. We've talked with the architect, and we're sketching out, but part of our challenge is from a long term, we want to make sure that we don't invest large amounts of dollars in something that's going to be a temporary solution. We want to make sure we use the money that we have wisely when we do this, so that, yes, I agree with you, the Bakken needs a lot of work, and there is some slated to start this spring at the Bakken. So at the Buildings and Grounds Committee, we're going to be proposing some of that work be considered by the board on March 6th. So we meet with Buildings and Grounds on February 28th for some of that discussion, and the Finance Committee on the 27th for some of that discussion to move forward to the board, hopefully on March 6th. So JLG and JE Dunn can get to work and start fixing some of our aged buildings moving forward.
So am I hearing you saying there's a possibility that building could no longer be a school at some point?
No, that is not ever been discussed in my vocabulary. That building has very, very strong bones, what I would say. It does need a lot of work, correct. But we need that building. That building is in the center of our community. It's in a great location, and we need to, like you said, do what we've done with some of our other areas, like at ASB. And in the future, that needs to be part of the discussion moving forward on how we serve our students with some remodeling.
And then switching completely, and I've thought of this from now and again because I have children that are now parents, and watching them deal with daycare. What they pay for daycare every month. Okay, so as far as a recruiting measure, wouldn't it be great if our District 007 would have a daycare facility for them to utilize? And I know there's a lot of legalisms in there, but the partnership with the community, the existing, I mean, that's good. That'd be a great draw. So that's just a brainstorming idea.
I have two in daycare, so I'm interested.
So I will tell you, it's a great point. It's one of the conversations, one of the needs of this community is daycare. I've heard it in every environment that I've been in discussions with. However, I will tell you that we are looking at adding preschool, a couple of preschool classrooms, and trying to build that over time because we have some significant needs in that area as well. We're looking to, if we reconfigure the way we're sharing with K4, we believe we can add, with board approval, obviously in the budget, 2 preschool age classrooms for next year, and then build that over time so that we invest early instead of trying to intervene late. Does that make sense? All right, are there individuals?
Hi, my name's Kristen Thompson. I jotted them down. I actually have a few questions. So I understand, it's my understanding that Garden Valley is closing next year?
That is incorrect. Garden Valley will be a K4 school. There will be 2 sections of each in Garden Valley.
So there will be a K4 school and then Missouri Ridge will also be a K4 school? So I guess my question is, my first question, so there's other elementary schools in the district, Rickard, McVeigh, et cetera. They're all also going to just be K through 4?
For next year, that is the plan.
But Bakken's the only one that's gonna be like a junior high level?
The plan as presented is to have a central campus that will be for next year, 5-8. 5th grade being self-contained like an elementary classroom would be.
Yeah.
And then once we are able to build the capacity to hold 5th grade, transitioning those students to their attendance area elementaries, and then just having a 6-8 central campus.
Okay. I guess my question is I will have next year a 4th grader and a 7th grader. I live out of town and rely as a working primary parent on the transportation. So is there gonna be transportation into town when we're already short bus drivers in our district for the 7th graders?
So for the 7th graders that live outside, yes, that's part of the reorganization plan. They were promised transportation, so I don't see that changing.
Okay.
But I will tell you that new business manager, Mr. Anderson, and I have been working and trying to come up with a solution to K4 transportation for next fall. And that is being discussed right now and will be moving forward to the finance committee for authorization to at least explore that financially. Because one of the challenges that we have in our school district, and this is not just K4, this is K12, is we have very poor attendance in a number of our students. One of the reasons for that is transportation. Parents having to make the decision, do they, with one vehicle, does mom or dad go to work or does Johnny go to school? And that's a real issue in our community. So we're trying to look at all of those avenues to try to build within that budget capacity solutions to some very, very difficult problems. My dream, and I'll just say, I dream a lot. My dream is over time is to have our community transport our students K-12 like other cities, like Fargo, West Fargo, Bismarck, Grand Forks. I think Williston residents deserve that. And if we can work together to build that capacity over time to do that, I think it will be a wonderful thing for everyone in this community that has school-age children. That's something that should happen.
Right, and that would be obviously a great thing to work towards.
I would be a hero.
Right? I mean, and I have.
That's my hero. My dream of having the cape and
Yes.
that big F on my. I'm just kidding.
And I mean, I live over by Missouri Ridge for the last 10 years. So logically, myself, and no, I'm not the only parent that works. probably before my kids go to school and after they get off, rely on transportation, otherwise I'm not gonna have my job, more than likely. I mean, my boss is very accommodating, however. There are people in that position.
I'm trying to make it so you don't have to worry about those things. That's my goal.
Right. Have you considered such solutions as maybe making Missouri Ridge like a K-8 school or things of that nature?
That hasn't been discussed because part of the strategic plan that was developed by the community decided that they wanted K-5, 6-8, and 9-12 structures moving forward.
Right. So who decided that? Because I just heard about it recently. Well, I've heard rumors of it from my kid coming home from school with their teachers telling them they're going to the Bakken next year.
So I will tell you that during the 21-22 school year, the district worked with a consultant, Dr. Schatz, to organize all of the stakeholders in the community to come together, from business community leaders, parents, staff, administrators. There were students on that committee as well. And they spent the entire year developing this plan with all of these strategic priorities for the district. In August of this year, that plan was officially voted on, brought forward to the board and voted on at a public board meeting and approved unanimously by the board. So that's kind of the roadmap that we're following with those strategic priorities.
Okay.
Moving forward.
And I guess the other question is, if we're talking about buildings, utilizing more classrooms, but I guess already.
And there was lights.
That's me, I did it, that's my.
I'm holding a baby, don't be mad.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Just a two-part question. So I guess we're looking at adding classrooms and all that stuff, and we need that. There's no way I could manage 35 plus kids, absolutely not, as a mom or anything else. I've actually been a nurse for close to the last 20 years, another healthcare profession that's like more and more need, you're more short-staffed every year, more people leaving. Have you guys looked in, if we're looking to hire 20 teachers and we need to hire those new teachers, and that's good, but what are we doing to retain our teachers who've been here for years that have that experience I want my kids to learn from?
Yeah, so I will tell you that the negotiation process is going to be starting with the Williston Education Association. The board representatives that have been selected to be a part of that negotiation process. And as we navigate through that process, you have a couple of things. You have what I would call the financial aspect. People have to be fairly compensated in the markets that we're in terms of the economy. Everything's more expensive than it was
Absolutely.
a year ago. So that's being addressed in those conversations will happen. The second is, and this is what research shows, is what types of benefits that are non-monetary can we discuss and agree upon with our teacher and support group that we can provide that makes the work environment better.
I can say as a working mom, when my kids were little, if somebody gave me the option of a daycare in a facility, that would be a great recruitment strategy.
And I've been in the district for years, and if that's been talked about,
Cost me 10.
We've talked about that before, so I also agree.
5 months ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah, I know that I was at I was actually at ASP. I was at a leadership panel, and the mayor was on with the acting city administrator, and we were addressing a group of leaders that were taking a class at the University of Mary. And part of his comments on some of the questions they asked us was the focus on increasing the number of daycares across the community. And it is a struggle. It's one of those realities that we don't have enough and we can't build them fast enough for the needs that we have. So I'm willing to have more conversations with our local government and our school board about, could we do something collaboratively? What would it look like? What would the costs be? Because if that's something that the community can get behind, we should probably at least explore it. Any other questions?
I got a quick question for you.
Okay.
My name is Troy Johnson. I just heard now that third floor is not being used in that school. How come? And
Third
one
floor
more.
is being used in that school.
Okay, well, and one more thing. How come you can't add another floor to it?
Another floor?
Another floor to the high school or the grade school or whatever it is, the central campus. You already got the heating system and everything in there. How come you can't add another floor?
I don't know if that can or can't be done. I mean, I certainly can check with the architect, but my guess is it would be extremely expensive. And I don't know structurally if it was built.
Well, then if you need to build a new schoolhouse, how big does it need to be? The size of the arc?
How big is what?
If you need to have a bond out there to build a new school, say.
We need to accommodate about 600 students. And
about the size of the arc.
There have been plans that have been developed previously that were in the event that the board chooses to go out for a bond, because we've already paid for them, we would utilize those plans. And I can, on the side, I can share those with you into my office. I don't want to, people say, well, why don't you share the floor plans out there with the public? Well, there's good reasons for that. In our society, we don't want people that may want to come and do bad things at our schools having the exact floor plans of our schools.
Well, you might have problems getting a bond with the last audit you guys had. So that's why I want to know how much our taxes are going to have to go up before we decide to another bond.
That will all be communicated throughout the process. One of the good things that the state legislature has done is there is, I think, conversation. I think this is going to happen at the state level, is property tax relief coming all across North Dakota. That, in my opinion, is an extreme positive. But looking at bonding, looking at the needs of our community, all of those conversations still need to happen as to what it would take and how it's going to impact the individual taxpayers. In my experience, when I've done these types of things, I'm able to share that information to the community long before we go out to a vote.
Okay, one more question too. There's a school land trust fund sitting down there in Bismarck. It's got approximately $6 billion in it. We should contact our legislatures and get that changed so we can start using that money.
I know that has come up at every legislative session. I do meet regularly with our state legislators, and their creativity on some of the things that they proposed this session has been, I think, a start in a great direction for trying to access more money for education, specifically construction. There's been a lot of creative ideas about how we could make construction in our school systems easier. Years ago, there used to be the ability to borrow money from the North Dakota State Bank. They raised it to 2%, and I know that in the legislature right now it's back to 1%, at least in their conversations. So they're working hard too. They have, just imagine, we're talking about specifically just the school district. They have all these other things that they deal with, and I know they do the best.
That trust fund can be used for the whole state. Yeah. That's set aside for all our schools.
That could be, and I don't know all the specifics as regarding that particular fund, but I do know that there is some century code that is currently exists that would have to be changed, I think. That's the way it's been explained to me. Okay, we're gonna go here, and I don't know that we're gonna get to everyone's question today, but I will show you before we leave where you can submit questions and we will do our absolute best to get on those quickly. So we'll take probably 5 more. I'll go over the time limit. We'll take 5 more questions and then provide an environment for you to send those in electronically.
I'm Chris Lind. I teach at Trenton. I taught 6th grade for about 20 years, and I've taught all over Williston also. One of my questions is, a lot of times it's really easy to look up here and look at Principal Reescraft, Assistant Principal Reescraft, to look at you and say, you're doing this to us. Who's the team that has been a part of this? Can we name the team so we understand who's all been involved? We understand it's not just you two.
So we've had the principals of all the 5-8 buildings and the instructional cabinet. The first semester, there were some teams built with teachers. And so when I referred to like the first plan, that plan would have been shared with the teachers from those teams at an event all at the same time. And then with the idea that the plan went back to the schools. So it's been the administrators at each of the buildings have been involved and the cabinet.
Who's the cabinet?
Who's the cabinet?
Can we clarify?
Yeah, let's
I think we
elaborate.
all want, like, who is the cabinet?
The cabinet level administration is, make sure I can name them all. Assistant Superintendent Kevin Clausen, Director of Curriculum Dr. Vic Arneson, Director of Media Literacy Leslie Allen, Director of Teaching and Teacher Instruction Tanya Brenner, Mr. Matt Bartenhagen, Director of Technology, Mr. Judy or Mrs. Judy Villahus, Director of Human Resources, Amanda Dinneman, Assistant Director of Human Resources.
And then the administrators are?
Administrators would be Mr. Googledge, Mr. Neske, Mr. Reescraft, Mrs. Cowan, Mrs. Norby, Mrs. Zimmerman. I think I got them all.
Okay, and I just got a quick comment. I have the opportunity on Fridays to sub, so a lot of you probably have seen me at the ASB, you've seen me at the middle school. That's the 2 buildings I spend a lot of time. I love what's going on in the Innovation Academy. You have wonderful teachers, you're learning to be leaders, you're getting a chance to do a different style of learning. But you go to the middle school and there is some innovation going there. But when I go to the middle school, I think, wow, why can't they have this now? And I know you feel very unfair. It's unfair. It's a typical thing it's unfair for this to happen. But the changes that are being made are to benefit the whole district. It's a hard decision. It's hard to happen, but you will also be the leaders in these other schools too. They will benefit just as much. I know you feel it's not fair. Again, life's not fair. We always tell you that, but it is for the good of what's there. That's my.
We'll go back to Deb.
Okay, I'm representing Overflow. There's about 20 of us back there or whatever coming and going. What we want to hear from is we know we have teachers in this room. And so we would just like to hear what are some of your solutions and administrators too. So that's what we want to hear. So I'm going back to my little cave. So we would like to see if you have any solutions, if maybe adding more kids to ASB, whatever it may be. So, okay.
Okay, we'll go on the way back. All right,
Yeah, I'm Lisa Newsom.
I like your shirt.
Thank you, me too. I'm a former kindergarten para. My last year in kindergarten in the school district, there were times we had over 30 kids in our classes, and I know that you guys don't want to hear this up front. That's not doable. You guys know how to get in a line. They don't. I know this is rough to hear, but those kindergartners can't be in 30 plus class sizes. It's not doable. It's like herding cats or kittens, more accurately. Cats at least have some skills. Kittens have none. So I do have some logistical questions. I'm very familiar with the Innovation Academy, the technology there, how it works, how it's set up. You've got numerous TVs and smart boards, no classroom phones. They're not set up for a traditional classroom. I don't see how you can make them traditional classrooms, even temporarily, without spending quite a bit of money, honestly. The way that sound travels in those rooms because of the open ceilings, how are you gonna get multiple classes in there without numerous sound issues? I have some concerns on that front. But also.
Can I just make one comment? So that's what we're working with the architect on, their expertise in that, to have them provide us solutions.
Yeah, I'm aware of their expertise. I've dealt with it before. It's not fun. Sorry, but I've had to clean up their mistakes more than once. It's not fun. So my other question is there a way that we could just turn these 3 campuses into a 5 through 8 campus without necessarily changing the way the Innovation Academy works, increasing class sizes and creating more spaces and putting that campus all centrally without putting in a bunch of even temporary or long-term changes at Innovation Academy?
So my understanding from a logistical standpoint is that the Innovation Academy is probably right at its max currently as to what it can serve. I mean, there's probably literally 20 or 30 students, but it was not built to hold 400 kids. So if that is going to happen, there has to be some changes, temporary changes. In terms of your question about can we increase class sizes? Certainly we can, but that's not good for kids. Part of the middle level environment, as you well know, is that age group where they're starting to change and create their identities. And, you know, that's another age group that we want to make sure that our class sizes are manageable. There are a lot of issues that occur at that age group from an affective needs standpoint that we have to take care of. So increasing class sizes could happen, but I don't believe that's the option we want to utilize as a community. Okay. Let's go back in the back here, and then we'll go over here, and then come back to Susan, and then we're gonna call it.
Okay, mine's kind of piggybacking off what she says. So I last year taught 3rd grade at one of our elementary schools in the district, and now I'm currently teaching at ASB in one of the breakout rooms that would be a self-contained 5th grade classroom. And I'm gonna tell you, there's absolutely no way I would even put my 26 3rd graders, who are a lot smaller than 5th graders, in that room, let alone a class of a similar size of 5th graders, because it's not safe. It doesn't foster a positive learning environment for the teachers or the students. Like, it's no way or shape possible to do that with the size of those rooms. So how do you really think that that's the best option for our teachers and our students, shoving them in a room that's that small for like a temporary fix?
So currently, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So currently at the Innovation Academy, you're teaching in a classroom.
In a breakout room, in one of our, so we have the big common spaces and then breakout rooms. So my breakout room, I do small groups in there. So I have anywhere from 5 to 10 kids in there at a time.
And we also have classrooms.
Yes, but the breakout rooms would, I'm assuming, have to become classrooms because there's not enough
You are correct.
spaces.
Yes.
I'm saying that with my 3rd graders, there's no way I would have even fit 25 3rd graders in that room, let alone kids who are a little bigger and a little older. Like, there's not space for desks or even enough tables to have that many kids, or for teachers' materials or storage. Like, there's not a lot in those rooms. So is that really what's best for those kids?
I don't think the plan is to put them in the breakout rooms. No.
No, so when I talked to the architect this past week, and he was kind of drawing it up, so the breakout room is part of you have your common space, and then the breakout room is part of one classroom.
That's not what we were told at the meeting, so that's.
So we're still trying, I mean, just so you know, we're still trying to, I mean, this is a monumental task. We're trying to make sure we get all the input we can.
Well, and if we're not using those breakout rooms as a classroom, then there's gonna be even less classrooms, so to speak, in that school. So are we really gonna be able to house as many kids as you're hoping we'll be able to house?
That we have, obviously, we have to rely on the experts in that arena based on square foot and design and architects, that's what they do. So that's why we're working real hard with it.
So if they came back to you and said that they don't think that it's a feasible option, would you guys consider that and say maybe this
Oh,
is the best
absolutely.
option for our district? Or
Absolutely.
would you still say this is what we have to do?
If an expert comes to me and says it can't be done, then we have to go to a different direction. And, you know, maybe that different direction is not going to be as good as the plan that we have, but yeah, that's why we're here, is to listen. Okay, we're gonna go over here to these last two right here.
Okay, all right, for me, I work for the district, I'm a substitute teacher, but I'm more concerned being a parent of innovators. Actually, Daphne Treadwell is my daughter. And Innovation did a good and wonderful job her growing up. Actually, just after our spring break, she will be competing for different entries just because of the result of innovation, but then we are defaulting one of them because they are overlapping each other. That tells you how innovation is very effective. My concern is, and I really like the idea that the whole middle school will spread the innovation idea, but my main concern is how it will affect, because they are the pilot group since the 5th grade. And I'm thinking, okay, the very purpose, the bond and all the state people gave funding for the innovation is for them to see the difference of their performance comparing to the other group of students in our district. So for us, I mean, are they going to be mixed all together with the current middle school, or are they going to be still continued to be a block group so that we will see the whole process of the innovation? That's one of my questions.
Okay, let me stop there and have Mr. Reescraft address kind of the current idea.
So yeah, in the current idea, it's to spread what is happening there going forward. So yeah, there would be some mixing of teachers. And the students would move into their houses, as you saw in the presentation. In a previous presentation that we did with the staff in December, we left that the same for one more year. I don't know if that completes the process one more year. And then we reconfigured our grade level houses the next year. So that's the difference between the two plans. So one would be one more year. And so when we consider the trade-offs between one more year as is and that would be part of it. Finishing the group would be the way, would be a positive to keep it going and see what. Absolutely. The concern or the struggle we would have is, again, facilitating that collaboration and then sharing the spaces we need to share on a bell schedule and transitioning across the street and more frequently with our teachers and the staff we have would be the challenge, keeping it as is.
So I want to speak just a little follow-up. So when we talk about, I use the word demographics. We talk about the breakup of our schools and who exists in our schools from all different environments and all different groups. I'm going to be sharing some data in next week's Coyote Corner that does a breakdown of who's actually in our middle level, our district schools, breaking it down by low income, ELL, special ed, so that we can really, we can take a look at what our school makeup is, because it should be equitable and it should be balanced across the system. And currently it's not. So we have some work there to do on that issue as well. But I want to get those facts out there so people can actually see what our schools look like across the system. Okay, I'll take one more question. You've been very patient.
Hi, I'm Fallon Justice. I have a quick question on the fact, I know that there was a plan drafted by, I don't know if it was the same team, if it was teachers or whatnot, that was approved, that we were like looking great, everybody kind of agreed. There was still changes, wasn't perfect, but it was absolutely doable. Set to roll out, set to start rolling out 23 and into 23-24, with the completion being 24-25. My question is, why are we rushing through it? And like, why was there like the executive decision made to kind of scrap that? And let's just roll forward and you're pretty much shoving 5 gallons of lard into a jar.
So I will tell you that those decisions were not made easily. We identified, as Mr. Reescraft, the team identified some of those core drivers for the plan, and those had to do with professional learning communities, multi-tiered supports, level 1, 2, and 3, and providing an opportunity for that collaboration to occur in the environments that we would be transitioning to. And yes, there was a shift, but we as a team, the team felt that shift was in the best interest of all students. And the change happening was in the best interest of all students. And again, remember that part of the need to move and transition to this different structure has to do with some of the issues of space we have across our district. And that space issue at the elementary level is real. I don't know who the kindergarten person was in the back, but we can't put 35 kids in our kindergarten classrooms. That's just not something I would feel would be good for this community.
And I say this as coming from somebody, I'm born and raised here. I went to school at Rickard. My 52-year-old sister went to school at Rickard. All of my children have gone to school at Rickard. I know, I 100% see it. And none of us here think that there isn't like a desperate need for things. My concern comes from a severe lack of transparency. There's really no communication whatsoever to the public or even to your teachers. Like, that's alarming in a lot of ways.
They're hearing different stuff than what you're
Well,
saying.
it's alarming because of the fact that our teachers are who we trust our children with, right? I trust the teachers, my children's teachers. They get better gifts than my mom does. Okay? I trust them explicitly. And the fact that they're not in the loop and they don't know what's going on and they can't explain not only to parents, but to the children. And was it the same team leaders that did the first plan that are doing the second plan?
How often
was
are
it
these
different?
leaders meeting?
Yeah.
That's the next question. I mean, we've heard about one meeting, but we've never heard about them meeting consistently. We heard about meeting one time. That's it.
So again, I'll go back. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So yes, can we improve in that area? We certainly can, but let me back up. So I've since my arrival, one of the core focuses was communication. Communication going out district-wide, going to parents in our community. So every week we have a communication that goes out that shares about information about what's happening throughout our district. I've also sat in this chair, in this room, and advertised everywhere I could advertise opportunities to come and sit and have conversations with the superintendent. I'm very pleased with the numbers here today. I wish that would have been the numbers that I've seen at the 4 previous.
Saturday's easier than 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay, so I'll tell you when I've had those meetings. I've had Saturday meeting at 11 o'clock, had a Sunday meeting at 1 o'clock. I've had a during the week meeting at 10 o'clock for parents that have elementary kids that may be a time that they could come, and then I've had the evening meeting at 5:30. So I've tried to have meetings spread out on different dates and times so that people can take a look at their schedule. And this is real. I have had a total of, in those 4 meetings, of 20 members of the community staff and parents show up. A total of 20. Now, if we could have this many at every one of those meetings and we could have the conversations that we're having today, things would be different. But we have to engage our community, which is a challenge. We have to engage our community.
I will tell you though, like the Facebook Lives and the streaming in that sense is huge. I watch every meeting. I can't make it to, I am busy, I am community orientated, I am everywhere. I guarantee everybody in this room has seen me numerous places. So I do my work, I get where I need to be and I do what I can to stay informed. I will tell you, I don't hear about school board meetings and whatnot. Like, I don't know if we need to try to plan them 3 weeks in advance so that people know when we're scheduling what's what with what. But like, there's a ton of stuff that I'm in the dark about and it's terrifying because I'm trusting you with my most precious beings.
So I will tell you the second part of that is, so I talked about improving communication. We are currently in the process of going through what's called a communication audit. We have hired a national organization to come in and take a look at how we can improve our communications. And that group is going to be working with all different stakeholders to identify how we can improve the communication in our school district, which I'm looking forward to, because there are, in every organization, I don't care if it's a school district or the city or whatever, communication always comes out as it needs to improve. And I will sit here and tell you that we're not perfect, but we are trying extremely hard based on the challenges that we have. It's not just curricular, it's not just student achievement, it's financial, it's attracting personnel, it's engaging parents, it's dealing with mental health needs, which are significant in our community and in our schools. It's providing counseling services to kids and parents, because parents in our school district, some do need that as well, and it's intensive. So you put all these things together, and it's easy to say, because I'm a parent too. I have a 5th grader and next year I'll have a kindergartner. It's easy to say you're not doing this, and this, but understanding the challenges of what we have to work with and what we're trying to accomplish. And when we ultimately look at what's best for all kids, it's not a perfect thing, but we're trying to make our decisions based on that as our core value. All kids, not just a select few, not just 5th grade, not just 8th grade, but all kids, kindergarten through 12th grade. And I will tell you, there are a lot of things missing from our structure over time that have not been approved for whatever reason. And I don't want to blame anything, but we're here not as a result of 1 year. We're here as a result of 10 years. In some areas, deferred maintenance, buildings, finances, those types of things. And, you know, what I will share is that I'm committed to work together with the community and with the staff. But a number of these things, we can talk and talk and talk, but we have to do something about it. We can't just spend our entire time planning. We have to put something in motion that people may agree with or may not agree with, but we're doing our absolute best. And you know, we will take the information that we get at each one of these sessions and we will process it as a team and we will talk through things. Can we do it better? Can we and from my chair, I live in a world where not everyone is happy all the time. Usually somebody's always angry at me based on some decision I make. But I can guarantee you that when I make those decisions, I'm not making them for myself. I'm making them on what we feel is best for kids. And that's the core. And sometimes it's not an agreeable decision. And people, I mean, social media is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing and a curse. So you take to social media and you express your opinions, which is fantastic. It's an outlet. But keep in mind that we have to, I always say, when your glass is half full, which mine is I try to look at it that way. From a, it's a positive outlook, it's a growth mindset, it's how can we work together? One of the ideas that popped into my head because of these wonderful kids right here is, maybe I need to go and sit in front of the ASB students and listen to them. That's one of the things that I will text my executive assistant before I leave the office today, is schedule a meeting with ASB students. Because I want to hear.
All students. Talking middle school.
Kindergartners. I will tell you, I have met with students throughout the course of this semester, but on a specific topic like this, I think it can be very powerful. Because really the change that when you get right down to it, the change is changing the environment of students in ASB for next year. That's the major change.
And staff. Let's include staff.
Fifth grade and staff. I mean students and staff.
Everything, it changes that. But don't listen, I just want to pipe in real quick, because we're talking about the students, right? But have you, and you talk about the admin and the cabinet that have made this decision. Where was the collaboration with the staff that it directly affects and the students it directly affects? And why were they not brought into this?
Well, and I can tell you that
Is it a lack?
there are
trust
staff,
in their-
there are staff members that were involved. So I want to make sure that's clear.
I would love a listing of a full
Yes.
listing of the team and the members that were involved in that.
So.
And I think
I would actually like to have a meeting with everybody, just like this, and a more accommodating space, just so we can all come together, because I feel like there's a lot of
So
vocabulary
March
here,
4th,
but it is not, I'm
March-
still leaving not very informed.
so what is it that you want to be informed
I
about?
just feel like a lot of the vocabulary has been kind of skirting around the issue, and it's based on this, and if, and whens, and thens, and we need to have something more solid.
Specifically, what are you talking?
Well, half of the meeting I couldn't hear because we wasn't even in an accommodating space.
And I shared with the reason for that at the beginning.
Right, but I was also at the meeting on Tuesday, and there was a board member that had suggested us finding a more accommodating place, which we could have done, and it could have been put out on social media where we all would have seen. Or there could have been a member here redirecting people to the move location. So there's just a number of different things that I'm leaving here with that I'm very disappointed in.
I understand that.
So you might be hearing from me because we might be having a one-on-one soon, because I need a lot of clarification.
Certainly. And I will tell you that, and I'll say this in the most professional way I can. Decisions need to be made.
Oh, I agree 100%.
And we are doing our absolute best with
Well, I
the
think you
challenges
took a
that you may
position that was very
not
difficult.
know.
And I applaud you for taking the initiative to try to make changes, but again, it's like we've got to come to a common ground.
Thank you for that. So the next two, like I said, will be in the auditorium environment, one at the Bakken and one at the high school.
Can you mention those dates, please?
Yes.
March 4th, I believe.
At 11 o'clock?
This is all gonna be going out.
Right, but
We just have to confirm, we had to confirm the space. So March 4th and
11 o'clock.
March, hold on, let me get my calendar up. March 4th, I believe at 5:30. No, wait a minute. March 4th is at 11. Again, and it will be at the Bakken, I believe. But let me get that out. We'll put it out on social media, both dates and I just can't remember which auditoriums, which date.
I have a quick question, man. It's just gonna be a super quick one about clarification of the names of what you guys are talking about. In your presentation up there, you have the Coyote Center, the Bakken Ridge something, and the ASB Center. When did the names get changed? And is that a proposal of getting changed? Because there's people that are watching this for the first time that are going, where are these kids going to? And they're not understanding. So rumors are gonna fly out there because just like Garden Valley closing, that's not closing. So
We're trying, I think the intent of the team was to be inclusive of all of our district because Missouri Ridge was coming in and blending with.
But you're still calling it Missouri Ridge and then you're pulling a ridge onto another name?
Missouri Ridge will be K4.
Right, but then you're gonna call it the Bakken Ridge and Missouri Ridge?
Because it's students coming together from those two environments.
What's the
And I
guy
think the names can be modified at any point in time. That's just
Current Williston.
Kurt Williston.
Okay, so in your thing up there, you didn't have any transfer of what is getting changed to what, so I think people out there are
Yeah,
probably
so-
gonna be confused about that
Yeah,
too,
so that's a great point, and we'll work on that clarification. So I wanna say one final thing, and then encourage everybody to come back if you can, or communicate your questions via the website. This change is not just affecting fifth through eighth grade and K through fourth grade. It's affecting every single student in this district. And we have a responsibility to our high school campus as well, our middle school campus, and our elementary campus. And I know that this is an emotional topic, but until we can get to the point where we are all solution oriented and not complaining about the ideas that others generate, we're going to continue to have this conflict in our community. Solutions come as a result of ideas. And I've been fortunate enough to have gone through some of these things before. Emotion is very difficult. We care too. We have kids that are going to school in this district, and we are doing our best to try to solve difficult issues. And everyone is not always going to agree with the answer that we come up with. But until we can hear, and to the individual that wanted more information, I agree with you. In a perfect world, we would sit and have conversation after conversation after conversation. But there are time constraints to this, because I have a teacher group saying on the other side, I need to know where I'm going to be next year when my contract comes out, because I may not want to sign it if I'm somewhere I don't want to be. So I've given them an April 15th timeline to get through this process. So I have other constraints that are part of this. So, and again, we have to come up with some solution. So with that, I will say thank you for being here.
Dr. Faley? Reconfiguration was brought up first, as far as I know, during the September board retreat.
That's correct.
And we knew that you were going to do something K through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12. That was the idea back in September.
At the board retreat, I think the idea was the bridge plan being K4, because we knew based on our current environment, we could not fit K5 at our elementary schools next year. So we discussed at our board retreat K4, and I believe that information was put out. But it's not a new concept. This conversation has been taking place for well over a year with our strategic planning community groups. So it's not a new concept. It's really the direction the district is going based on the community input.
We reported on it, and the Herald reported on it a few days after the retreat, letting people know, hey, this is what they're thinking about doing. So I'm just curious on why, from that timeline in September to today or this week, why the teachers have just found out about this now, when this has been kind of a talked about idea for.
Well, the teachers, and I'll address from my perspective, there were surveys that were sent out in October to staff. There were what the title transition groups. The staff had conversations about the other plan. So it's not something that is new. I mean, that's not a true statement. Staff have been involved in conversation regarding this. Now, the plan shifted, and owning that, we probably should have done a better job of communicating that shift. The shift being where kids were going to be placed. So we will own that, and that's why we're having these meetings to gather that input, to see if there are better ideas that are coming from our students, our teachers, and our community, because we do want to hear that. But ultimately, we're going to have to make a decision fairly quick about what it's going to look like for next year.
And that April 15th is that deadline you're looking at, or?
April 15th is the deadline that we're looking at to make sure that our teachers know where they're going to be next year. So the greater team has a lot of work to do over the next several, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, about 6 weeks, I think. All right, we're going to close it out. If you have other questions, I'm going to, I don't want to insult anybody, but if you do not know what our website is, willistonschools.org will get you there. And there is a place on the website for you to ask questions. It's question, inquiries, and comments. And that, when you fill that out, it goes directly to the individuals that you have the questions for, and you will get a response to your questions. Might not be immediate, but it'll be a response, and we do try to get through those as quickly as we can, depending on volume. Have a wonderful day. I'm going to go be dad now, and have a wonderful day, and we'll continue our discussion.